Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca Gunter, and you're watching Business in the Raw. This is episode 2. I am so excited about this episode because Janine has a big decision to make. Is she going to go with this business, or something in between? Get a bird on a wire view as we build a brand from scratch, carving out a life for one entrepreneur who's reinventing herself, and the revolution is televised. Hey, that does sound good.
This is great. This is
Welcome.
great. I feel great. I enjoyed our last session. It was much needed because I think we unearthed more opportunities and opportunities for me to be more thoughtful about some of these next steps. In particular, I'm glad that we have this session to not necessarily redo, but to just enhance what it is that we're going to be doing here. And I thought a lot about, you talked about regenerative ideology, right? And I don't know, for those that were not a part of that, we were talking about this whole roots to fruit concept, the concept around legacy family, bringing community together, and all of those concepts pulled together. This is when Rebecca named it. She said, "I really think what you got going on is this regenerative ideology." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is awesome. I know I'm flipping papers here, but I wanted to make sure that I covered this." We talked about making the podcast an opportunity to build a portfolio using my voice and bringing people on board to interview or to guest podcast. And I gave more thought to that, Rebecca. And I want you guys to know that this thought process, a lot is our responsibility, but having this engagement with you, Rebecca, is what's helped just catapult my thinking of what the possibilities are, right? And so I started just making notes around what is my sweet spot? Where do I want to be? What areas do I feel that I can build a niche? And I think I may be getting ahead of myself. I just want you to know what I was thinking about. I wrote that I'd love to create a platform where Black, African Americans, Asians, Native Americans, but that we all can tell our stories and where they will be heard. So I'm thinking about published authors to read excerpts of their book. Perhaps you mentioned children's books during our conversation. All these notes, and I can see how indeed it is tying together. But while I still am pursuing and moving forward as a voiceover artist or voiceover talent, there's so many versions of what we can call ourselves, but I believe I'll stick with voiceover talent. But yeah, so that's where I am, just really thinking about that space and what opportunities exist. What do you think about all that?
I think a lot of things about all that, Miss Janine. I agree. Let's back up a second
Sure.
because when last we left our heroes, we were really toggling between two very different concepts.
Mm.
The first one was around a very mechanical business model around something you already know that you can do and do well. That is freelance voiceover, music, podcast production, things that take place right where you are right now in the whisper room.
In the whisper room.
And then this other set of a passionate cornucopia of interests and pursuits and things that ignite you and make you really excited about going into a business. And the struggle we had last session, for anyone watching at home for episode 1,
Yeah.
the struggle we had in that work was, is it this or is it this, or is there a possibility of creating something here that is intrinsically enmeshed with each other
Yeah.
in this beautiful ecosystem? And that started to sound exactly like a cultural center, essentially a brick and mortar cultural center that had all of these kind of growth opportunities in a variety of ways.
Yes.
That threw you into a little bit of an existential crisis. And so I'm hoping you'll maybe share a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about the resolution of it.
Absolutely. So yeah, the crisis happened over a weekend after session one, and hopefully you all have had a chance to look at that. I started thinking, wow, am I going to find myself building what may look like a nonprofit? Am I going to find myself schlepping garden materials around from center to center while building partnerships? There's no mistake there that there is an effort behind all of this to create a greater community. But in doing so, with that one concept, I started to wonder, where's the money in this? Am I really going to be able to make a living? It felt very altruistic in terms of, yeah, these are things that I want to do and I want to expand. I love gardening. I love this. I love that. But I started to feel a disconnect between what do you really want in your gut? I want something worthwhile. Yes, I want it to be an opportunity to give back, but also to receive something in return, which is some monetary value. What really was going to allow both to happen, but while one still stands as the major source of income. And I started to get concerned that I think that I was strewing, I don't know, my own emotions behind those things that I love. There are things that you love, there are things that people will pay you to do, and there are things that really will make money. I find in this new space, and I don't want to get ahead of where we're going, I find in this new space that there's opportunity, yes, for all three, but something is going to serve as the foundation for allowing the other two to support. Almost like a triangle. That's how I view it.
My favorite part about this whole thing
Mm,
is my favorite part about this whole thing is and what can I also get back? I
yeah.
think as women and as business people, we are really trained with the message of just keep giving of
Yep.
yourself relentlessly until you have try not to give away everything in your but we also really want you to give away just about everything in your
Yeah.
and it's only about what you give and then you will receive. The fact that you're setting your intention right off the break of yes, I have a lot to offer the world and I have altruistic intentions, but also I'd like to see what the world can give back to me.
Yeah.
And we don't often allow ourselves the what feels to women like the hubris of demanding
Wow.
something back for ourselves.
You're
And it's
absolutely
only for
right.
the greater good, Janine. You're going to do something incredible with that return.
Hey, and I looked at some of the data. Thank you very much for saying that because you're right. It's empowering. It's empowering to think about yourself, to put your desires, but be truthful about it. And that's what happened over the weekend between session one and this session is that, I started to think, okay, that all sounds good, girl, but what do you really want? Yeah, I want to make money. Of course I do. I was looking at voiceover, the labor statistics around voiceovers. Men dominate in that when you think about stadium announcements, when you think of, because those are voiceovers, right? When you think of in theater, promotion of trailers, the majority are male voices, although you're starting to hear some of that change. But I want to be a part of changing the dynamic by using my voice, but almost in a holistic way, using my voice as a woman. And I think in one of our last sessions, I mentioned something about, yeah, being an educator. Yeah, I want to be an educator, but an educator in action as well, showing this is how I'm doing it. I'm using my voice as a voiceover talent, but also in bringing my voice to certain topics that I have interest in and certain hobbies, of course, I have interest in. And what I enjoyed about our last discussion is that I can see the potential for all of that happening. I feel like I'm repeating the same thing, but that's what, because you have to end up somewhere, and that somewhere works. And I want to be that voice doing it my way. That's the only way to do it. And as a woman, we have so we have a lot of potential. Men and most women know, yeah, I got it going on. But how do you cut through? And that's where I am. How do you cut through, still make money and not feel as though I have to is it kowtow? Is that the word?
Sell my soul,
Yeah, sell
essentially,
my
or
soul.
yeah, or kowtow,
Yep.
or do things the way that other people think that they should be done,
Yep.
or write my chapter by somebody else's cliff notes.
Wow. Ooh. Yeah. I get a
Put
chapter.
that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
You get your own chapter, and you also get to ask the world to give you something back.
Yeah.
And it can
That's empowering.
because it feels selfish.
Yeah.
We were raised to believe that is give, and that is how you will find value.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
here you are saying, yes, give,
Yeah.
but also give back, and then I can give more.
And then I can give more.
That's the key.
Bravo. Bravo. That is exactly it. That's exactly it. I think you say in one of the intros, because you and I have talked a bit, that I was married for 39 years and have raised 2 children, and they're grown, and worked full time all my life, went to college while still married, and all those things, juggling all. Many women are doing the same thing, and we're pouring in. I read an article the other day, because I'm always looking for not just support for what I'm doing, but just to see, is the world really catching up with how I feel, but that women are still giving, and I'm not trying to make this into a statistical sort of arena.
Get all that feminist soapbox,
Oh my
sis. I
God.
am for it. I am for it. Bring it.
But we are still, even as breadwinners in our family, so that's making at least 60% of our household income, or maybe slightly less. We are still giving more in other areas of the relationship or household building, household nurturing, even in the caregiving. We're still here. They talked about there's an increase on man caves, because men are, and I'm not knocking men. It's just still looking for ways for me to, how can I chill out? Great men, great husbands, great fathers, great dads. But I'm talking about just overall statistical, because statistically speaking, we
Now
still got issues.
that's the voice. Now that's the voiceover artist I know and love.
Oh my God.
Statistically speaking,
Exactly.
and also just to add to your point, I've read that women who make more income in a traditional monogamous unit do more of the housework because they feel guilty
That's
for
right.
being more of a breadwinner. So
That,
you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
that's right.
And you are breaking the wheel for yourself.
Yeah. I thank you. I feel I'm doing that. And I'm hoping other women who watch this, and men, see the opportunity that we have to change our own perspective, our own viewpoint, our own philosophies of who we are in a household, in a relationship, in discussions, how we interact with each other. And I know I'm asking for the sun, moon, and stars from this interaction, but I can tell you what I'm gaining, what I'm getting from it. And that is, I can, and yes, I believe I can do all things through God who strengthens me. That's for sure. But you hear that last part, he strengthens me. So
Grit and glory, baby. That's your personal brand.
yeah.
For sure. You best believe you're going to do it with grit and glory and graciousness. You're a
Yeah.
person. So I celebrate this new chapter. And when you made the comment, maybe I'm asking for too much, my coaching here for you is good. I have another client she helps people who are in a corporate career space navigate their own career development
Mm,
outside of external forces. So outside of what your boss is molding for you, outside of what the company is molding for you, but basically becoming your own talent strategist.
wow.
And her tagline is, if you're happy and you know it, ask for more.
Okay. Can I pause for a minute to write that down?
Yeah, but for the audience at home who knows I'm a copywriter, I'd love to take credit for that. I
Okay.
wish I wrote it, but I did not. If you're happy and you know it, ask for more.
Ask for more. Clap, clap. Clap,
Ex-
clap.
exactly. So here you are asking for more. I couldn't be. This is my jam because I believe that since I believe sovereignty is sacred. So for
Wow.
women, sovereignty can only come through financial empowerment.
That's right.
And for many of us, that financial empowerment, you either have a great high paying job and career, fantastic, good on you,
Mm,
fabulous. But
right.
my jam, are people who hang out their own shingle, get a eat what you kill model of entrepreneurship,
Love that.
and then carve a brand out of marble, essentially, like
Yes.
out of marble. There's just like nothing you can't do. Bitches get shit done.
I believe
When you
that.
don't have a boss or another company you have to mitigate the PR with, you can make your own decisions.
That's
You
right.
can make your own money. You can carve your own path. You
Yeah.
can be unapologetically yourself. That's why I'm here. And that's
I
why I'm here with you.
I love all of that because we're making our own world go round through the so there's an interdependence piece of this, and then so when we're working with others like thinkers or who can contribute to help make this brand and bigger so that I can do what I do so that others can also contribute and give back in that whole reciprocity. But that's to me that's what it's all about. So I'm totally with you. I'm with you.
Now we know why we're doing it and
Mm,
why we're doing it for each other and
yeah.
why it's good news. Let's get a little bit back to the what are we doing. Like I shared earlier, that was a big breath, Zach. Like I shared earlier in the segment, we really were between these like two very different ideas and not 100% confident that we could mesh those in the middle in a way that didn't have you riding, as I like to say, two horses with one ass.
Yeah.
However, through your existential crisis that you had last weekend, and through this kind of stepping up and owning the sovereignty of building a business for yourself
Yep.
that makes you happy, that fills you up as much as you fill up that cup as well, we ideated some ways to do that. It is around the podcasting, VO agency, whisper room experience with
Yeah.
all of the aspects of audio adventuring. Just brainstorm them: webinars, voiceovers, commercials, song, legacy story gift, YouTube shorts. There's no end to the need for voiceover.
I agree.
By the way, I brought up your voiceover from Bread for the City from 2020 for the Grand Gala event and played it last night just to hear it
Oh
and
my
hear your voiceover talent.
yes.
We're going to put a link in the show notes for folks who want to hear you do that piece.
I love doing it. I
It
loved it.
was so beautiful. And one thing I've noticed about myself is I don't really set up voiceover artists for success because I'm wordy. I'm verbose, and all of my copy doesn't always work well for a voiceover because it's now that I'm figuring out that you have to say these things out loud. I'm like, oh
Funny.
Lord, that sentence has three clauses to it. It works for writing, but not for saying. And
And
you didn't let that hold you back. You never once came to me and said this too wordy. You just rolled with it. So it was absolutely beautiful.
I thank you.
Beautiful work.
And I was what I was gonna say is that but I felt that it was great copy. So, that to me made it easier because the copy to me expressed the audience who would be listening to the or watching the actual video. These are people who want to make a better community. These are people who support Bread for the City or who are looking for a Bread for the City to support. And so sometimes you need a few more words to wrap around and to embrace and to encourage. And I think that's what that script did. I probably have a copy somewhere down here, but
Well, I have a copy for sure.
yeah,
We can take a look. We can take a
I
look at that.
loved it. We loved it. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's fun to bring that up, and it's fun to talk about now. But it really does bring us back to the whole point of what could be a brand and a business for yourself that does marry or create an amalgamation or a victory garden, if you will,
Yeah.
bearing fruit, coming to fruition of
Oh.
flowering,
Oh.
attracting pollinators. Okay, I'll stop. We could build a business that satisfies your need for creativity, for expression, and for this altruistic mindset because the business idea that you have is viable. The reason I came to you for that project,
Yeah.
backstory,
Yeah.
Paul King from King Productions, who's a big fan of the show, big fan. He's also a friend of the show, has done some video work for it, and I've worked with for many years on many projects, was producing a virtual gala for the nonprofit, DC nonprofit, Bread for the City, because it was pandemic times, 2020, and
Yeah.
all the galas were going virtual.
Yep.
And he had enrolled me to help them position the fundraising effort, create some copy, and write voiceover scripts. And
Wow.
I brought you to the table because Bread for the City serves communities of color.
Yes, it
We
does.
could not have a voiceover artist that sounded like they were living in upper northwest with no insulated from the rest of DC. We could not do it. I needed somebody who would sound familiar and sound right and be very culturally appropriate.
Well,
And I didn't know, didn't know where to start. I knew exactly where to start with you, but I don't know where other people would start if they need that. And so your point at the top of this episode of I want to elevate Black voices and I'm going to start with my own.
yeah.
And these are our stories.
Yeah.
And I also think you're telling other stories through those voices.
Yeah.
This is why we need you. This
Yes.
is why the world needs you to help us elevate, I would say visibility, but it's really about audio. Help us elevate the industry from being
Yes.
extremely narrow
Yes.
to much more appropriate for the asset.
Wow. You hit on several points. I'm always reading, but I was reading an article a while back, and I think it was a Netflix series. I can't remember what the name of it is, but the director said in an interview, my God, I wish I would have cast a more diverse group of actors. In this case, these were actors, versus it was a majority white cast. And he said, I was young, but also, in summary, I'll say, afraid. Afraid to use the voices that would have enhanced and made the series more colorful. And he heard from, I think, his audience. But that's the case with, I believe, a lot of missed opportunities. And I'm saying we're missing the opportunity as voice actors or voice talent. We're missing the opportunity, but those in who have their hand behind the development of if it's a series, if it's e-learning, if it's narration, you're missing an opportunity of reaching an audience that would embrace hearing a voice that perhaps sounds like me or sounds like, someone else of color. And don't be afraid. I'm not on a Am I on a soapbox? I can't tell. But don't be afraid to take a chance. Don't be afraid, because we are who your audience, truly, trust me, we are who your audience wants to hear. And in some cases see.
I think you said it even better the first time when you corrected yourself. You are who the audience trusts.
Yeah.
It's not who I want to hear. It's
right.
not even who I need to hear. It is who I trust.
Bingo.
So if you're trying to enroll audiences with voices they don't trust,
Yeah.
I don't really know what you're doing with your media except for maybe appealing to advertisers. Question mark. And I would put a big question mark beside that as well.
I would as well.
And I would also, sorry, Janine, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No.
I would also posit that the real challenge for you, which I think is the real challenge around diversity and inclusion in general, is to not talk about it in ways that are like inclusive,
Yeah.
and rather talk about either equality or parity. Because inclusive still implies that someone decides who's in and who's out.
That's right.
Inclusive still implies that it's like us, but we're going to allow some flavor.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'd rather be on the side, wouldn't you? I would rather be on the side in determining what it is that my audience needs, not just what I want, because that's like the focus group. I used to conduct focus groups. That's like the focus group of one. The focus group of one. And how can you tell a story with a focus group of one? You can't. So your own opinion, your own I use philosophy a lot because a lot often that leads in our decision making. What do I feel about that? What would I want to see? Really? Okay. So you may now have a majority, let's say, I'll just say even African American audience, but in this case, I'll just say, or you may have a majority white audience. Does that mean that you can't give a little flavor and show them lived experience of, or to create what we would see every day in our lives, which is a more diverse group of individuals at a restaurant or at a party, laughing and ha ha ha, ha, talking, or in my case, of voicing a um, what an HR manual or whatever it is. You don't have it's not eh, you have a number of people from various ethnicities that are reading or listening to whatever it is that we're producing. Again, the disservice. And you're right, trusting. You hear that voice, you're like, okay, all right, I can get into this. Whether or not it's audiobooks, I just keep naming all these various niches. But in all those spaces, these are touch points of our lives.
And touch points of your business.
Yes, it is. Bum,
So
bum.
if I had a magic wand, I would wish that video producers, audiobook producer, all the things that you mentioned would recognize not the value of including Black voices just to check the diversity box,
Right.
or to suggest that melting pot theory
Mm.
of blah blah blah, but rather approach it in, who does the audience really need to trust? Who will the audience relate to? Who it always comes back to, who's who are our people and what
Yes,
do they need? Who
and
are our
what do they
people
need?
and what do they need? It's not easy. I'll admit that ghostwriting for Black voices has been a challenge for me over the
Mm.
years, even though I have Black clients. And there have been times when I've messed up by not natural,
Yeah,
cultural biases that I've just grown up in.
okay,
I
exactly.
just did one the other day. I was writing for my girl Simone Craig, who I introduced you to, for Art in the Atrium, and we
Yes.
were writing in a website for Art in the Atrium, and her whole shtick is just the complete and total sovereignty of Black art as an entity, but
Mm.
not compared to other things
Not
on its
compared.
own.
Love it.
And I wrote Awaken to the Larger Culture to this, and that is racist. And I had
Interesting.
to apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wrote that because it's not true.
Interesting.
There is no larger culture. You are not, there
Wow.
is no larger culture. But I wrote it without thinking. In fact, I thought it was empowering at first. Yeah, awaken the larger culture to the value of Black art. But
Ah.
it was biased. And the only way I know that is just by being humble and learning. But also, I encourage other people to recognize that it is hard for white people to include. See, even the word diversity, I think, is like very loaded, but to
Mhm.
include voices from people of color and do it in a way that isn't still a little colonialistic,
Uh,
no
uh,
matter how good your intentions are.
yeah, that's exact. But how do you get there? Oh my God, this is like a talk show because how do you get there? Did you, and this is almost rhetorical, but did you take a step back, reread or hear it recited and go, "Oh my God, did I say that?" And if so, you're nodding yes. You were willing because of who you are to say, "Oh my God, wow, I missed a beat here.
That's
That was
exactly
not my
what happened.
intention."
I read it out loud to her because that's how I deliver copy.
Oh,
And as soon as I said the words, I just thought about myself, and then I kept reading, and she was buying into it. This
yeah,
doesn't mean she wasn't like at the side, but she bought
yeah.
into it. Our next session, I said, I had to talk to you. I think this line of copy is racist.
I
And
applaud you.
I wrote it, and I'm really sorry.
I applaud you. There's many things I can say there. Really quick, I went to see a musical over the weekend, and it was at the George Mason Performing Arts. What is it? Oh shoot, it's in Manassas. Anyway, it was a production. It's called Sis. I actually know the director and one person who's actually in the cast, and it was phenomenal. Just so happened that the writer was in the audience. And so after the musical and things calmed down, and because it's a phenomenal production, we had the opportunity to hear from the writer, and she was just absolutely amazed with what this director had done with the musical. But and there's a lot of R&B in the musical, and she wrote it that way, but she said it was written that way because she went to other blacks and artists to and asked them, what should go here? Now, these are Janine's words, but in so many words, she needs to know. Look, I have a concept. I have a great idea. She's white. And she wrote a phenomenal play. It's been on off Broadway and it's phenomenal. But we had it right here in Manassas, Virginia. Phenomenal. And had her there. But I was so taken aback by her honesty about her process. And it reminds me of what you're saying in a way that she realized that although I would like to hear this song or whatever, one of the songs was like I Will Survive and other songs, but I don't think she could have been as successful. And then she admittedly said that would not have been as successful if she had not reached out to the audience and said, what do you feel would work here? And if we could do that more often in all the work we do, and I hope that this is what I bring to the voiceover space as a voiceover talent, and then encouraging others in that space to use their voice. Again, I said holistically, but also just audibly. It's the only way that people are It's the only way I will know. Sometimes I say people, but it's really me, that I'm in the right space by the more people that I engage and build that community and who are speaking truth to this particular profession. It's the only way that we'll see the profession begin to change and grow. And it is. And it has from many years ago. And I don't know all the history, but I do, as I mentioned, I read a lot and I see how far we've come. But there's still, as we both know, there's so much work that can be done. And to be able to showcase just what talent you're missing. So,
Yeah, what talents you're missing.
yep,
But also, that's not the reason to do it. The reason to do it is because it's a right fit.
it's a right fit.
Yeah. So we all come to the table with our biases, and you're helping to smash those, even for folks who are best intentioned.
Yes.
When you ask me how do we do it, in my opinion, it's really about looking at life through the anthropological lens as much as you can, recognizing how culture is impacting every decision we make. Every word I write is informed by I am 52 years old who grew up in the United States, born in 1970.
Wow.
That is all wrapped up in how I write, but I do make a conscious effort every day to just continually try and decolonize myself from the ideals and ideas that I grew up in and do
Yep.
right by the people. Just show up for people and admit when you're wrong. Oh, my bad.
Hey, let me tell you something. You talked about decolonization, and I was talking to someone the other day, and there are things about me, and this is why this has been it's like therapy, really, to be honest with you, to realize you see your potential on the horizon and working somewhat in a silo, and literally silo, called a whisper room, but obviously with others supporting you, but you realize that you can't do it alone, but you need the sort of thinkers and doers who, I think I said this earlier, that are like thinkers, which is why working with you take the time. But I- so I was having this conversation and I was complimenting this person. So, wow, you really are able just to touch and reach people and blah 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 blah. She said, one exercise I have for you is that whatever you feel about me, I want you to write that down, and then I want you to flip the mirror, and what about me do you even see in yourself? And we went through that whole exercise. And I gotta tell you, it was enlightening because I personally am accustomed to surely offering supportive language around what other people are doing and how they do it. And I won't say not necessarily giving credit to who I am and what I do, but using the same place where those words of encouragement come from to start internalizing it and building, which is why this work with you is just so timely. because it requires that internalizing. Who am I? What do I really want to achieve? And I think some of that comes from just, you talked about, where you grew up, the time that you grew up. I also am a part of the late 60s growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, and that shaped a lot of who I am, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm starting to just reframe who I am and what potential I have to contribute differently beyond like encouraging others. There's a long way to say that, but
I think you clocked two really important aspects to this work. Friend of the show, Tony Perrego, who you know and love,
yes, I do.
calls this work entrepre-therapy. And
Oh,
I do think it does feel like entrepre-therapy or brand therapy to really sit down and put this together.
yes.
And the reason it's important to have this space, this show is really about how do we do the work of building a brand, carving out a position for ourselves, or how do we start something from scratch.
Yes.
What I'm going to show you, what I'm going to do is hold up a mirror to you, just like your friend did through that exercise. And I'm going to do that by writing the words for you. When I do that, you're going to experience this very surreal moment where the words you're hearing or reading are absolutely true, but you're not sure if you believe it. Because I'm really showing you your value. I'm really just articulating your value in a truthful, authentic way that feels true today and also feels aspirational. And you're going to have this moment where you're like, I hear the words you're saying to me, but I don't actually believe them. Only in a therapeutic environment can we then use that moment to start building a foundation of self-belief that will
I
be required for you to succeed in entrepreneurship. You are going to have to believe in yourself.
You're right.
When someone asks you, who are you and what do you deliver? Or who are your people and what do they need? Or why are you different, special, or the one? If you cannot answer that confidently, the chance that you'll get that business is much less probable than if you were like absolutely know who you are, what you do, what you're serving in the world, the problems you're solving, and why you're uniquely qualified to do. And you can either take it or leave it. And if you take it, great. And if you leave it, that's fine too. That requires self-belief that is
Mm,
unparalleled. Entrepreneurship is literally baptism by fire.
I agree.
You eat what you kill. That is it. You are not getting a paycheck regardless. Ross Brand, 100 TV fame Ross Brand
Yeah.
says employees always get paid and work sometimes. Entrepreneurs are always working and sometimes get paid.
Whoa.
So you better know your value and your worth in order to make your time worthwhile. And to your point of what can the world give back to me and how this is your moment, this is your moment to accept that, but you will only accept it if you believe it, and you will only believe it if you go through this therapeutic environment
Wow.
where you're totally exploring within a safe space. This
Yes.
business, that business, this segment, that segment. What we get trapped into, Janine, I'm sorry to dominate this
Oh no,
moment on
please
my
dominate. I
soapbox.
love
Oh,
this.
now am I on a soapbox? What happens to us if we don't is what Jill Mokes, who you will meet, coach of the show, friend of the show, coach of the show, resident coach for sure. She'll call it. She's British, so she's really cute. She'll say beavering away at a light version of yourself, and that resonates with me so hard. Like beavering away at a light version of yourself when we just rely on our resume. Like you could have gone out and continued your I'm going to put all of my effort into the nonprofit work, or I'm going to put all of my effort into the cultural center and forming those partnerships, or I'm going to put all of my effort into that. But what you really want is to not elevate. See, again, that's another relational word that is racist.
I, but
I
and
apologize to you. I'm
no,
sorry, man.
no, but see, elevate. But I probably use it 10 times in this conversation.
But
Elevate.
elevate implies a
I know.
hierarchy.
I know. But yeah,
And validate implies that someone is validating. It
yeah,
has the stamp,
yep.
has the rubber stamp, and that's not me, you, or anybody either. So we'll have to think about what that word is. I have written for you Voices of Color for a New Regeneration, We talked about that a little bit offline, not on this show.
Yeah.
And I think the regeneration part is so clutch to you living a full fat version of yourself.
Mm.
There's no aspect of your life that isn't regenerative, from
Yeah.
being a mother to honestly being a matriarch,
Yep.
to the gardens you grow, to the songs you sing, to the stories you tell, to the abundance you bring to the table. You're not looking at the thing, you're looking at the ancestors,
Yeah.
and you're looking at the great grandchildren at the same time.
Yes.
How do you put the bottom like 2 inches of an onion in a glass of water and then
Oh,
watch the roots grow and then stick it in dirt and have a whole new onion? That's you.
yeah. Wow.
Regenerative, but spiraling upwards. An
But
upward spiral. A regenerative spiral.
and feeding
Voices.
myself while I feed
Yeah.
others.
Roots
I
to
love
fruits, baby.
Bam.
Roots to fruits. I am feeling this for you for sure.
I
What
feel it.
yeah, what has you the most excited
Uh,
about the idea of a business like this?
my God. What makes me most excited is that I'm excited about it because I see the potential, give back and moving forward, involving others in the community in the work that I'm doing. So yes, as a voiceover talent, but also those in the field that are doing similar work, bringing them to the table, if you will, and giving them a voice. That is exciting. I'm excited about building a platform that perhaps, and I know we talked about this, a platform that looks and feels organic, that may in the future be sold, or someone finds it of value to pay a price for it. So the potential of finally deciding for the potential of finally deciding that this is possible is exciting. And that, and I'm not going to use the word elevate, but I just did. Dang it. But the potential,
I think you could use it. Maybe I can't
I
use
don't
it.
know. I
You
don't
could,
know.
I don't know. It does reply a hierarchy though.
But yeah, it does. But elevate, but anyway, and bringing others along with me. I find that I talk a lot about bringing others with me because I realize and I recognize it's not something I do alone. But in order to bring others with me, this had to change. This mine, I'm pointing at my head, the mindset around the potential. That really, that makes, I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
What would success look like for you? You say you're excited about the potential.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what,
Wow.
if the potential is I could be successful. Let's define what success would look like for you.
Let's talk about that.
Let's get into it.
Success is our clients who trust me with their brand, and the brands are diverse in terms of audience reach, even method of delivery. Success is our repeat clients, that others are talking about the work that I do in a way that makes it easy for others to understand the work that I do. And that all comes from me, but do you understand it by either a few words or by several products that I've produced? You take a listen just to some of it and you go, yep, that's exactly who we need for the work. So the work that we're doing now, I feel, leads to those things happening. So that is success. That my own community respects and trusts the work that I do, and also in working with me, that it's that safe place that we've talked about. And what I mean by that is you come aboard with me if you're doing a reading or whatever it is, and I don't want to get ahead, but that it's safe for you to share your memoir or whatever it is, a clip of it on the podcast or streaming. And because there is an audience there, trust me, and that's what this is all about, that wants to hear their story. So Yeah, the fantastic voyage. That's what comes to mind when I say come along with me. It's that fantastic voyage.
You don't break out into song right now, the show is over.
I know,
No, I'm
I
just
will. Come
kidding.
along and ride on the fantastic voyage. You got to do the voyage part.
I better not be muted for it.
I think I was patting my foot. I hope there's not a lot of shaking in the room. A whole lot of shaking going on. But
What an Elvis. Okay, so here's what I'm hearing from you to make sure. Now, we're talking about this in like literally 5 to 7 minutes. When you get with your coaching call with Jill Mokes, this is the crux of what you will do. She's going to walk you through goals and vision, and it's not just like financial goals, although it is that, but it's also like reputational goals. You alluded to that with I want my community to. I think you said respect what I do or believe in what I'm doing,
yeah.
but I wrote not a sellout. So
Yeah.
like something along those lines. You'll do
Yeah.
that a lot with Jill. But here's what I heard, which I think is important. I'm gonna take myself off. Zach, you can edit this out. Okay. Back to Janine.
Huh.
There we go. Okay. So I can look at my notes without people just seeing the top of my head. Rebecca talking take two. Rebecca, what? Jeez. Janine.
You know what? That's funny. Side note, that's what voiceover talent do all day. You're like, either you click, you make a little sound because you need to do that over.
Hey, let me tell you this thing I saw on TikTok that I got Tony to do, and it's been a game changer, and I have to get one for myself. A dog clicker.
Oh, I have one.
I got to get one for myself.
Yeah, a small little square blue, red, or whatever color.
Yep. I got to get one for myself. Recording from the setup to the episodes where I was like, hi, I'm Rebecca Gunter. And Janine's it would have been like, Tony was so proud of me. You would have been so proud of me. I'm like, I'm Rebecca Gunter. I'm Rebecca Gunter. I'm Rebecca Gunter. Like just relentless take, nope, take, nope, take, nope. But the beauty of it is you can edit those through the magic of editing.
That's
Shout
right.
out to Zach Bordeaux from Dozer Dog Designs, who's making the show look
Shout
beautiful. Shout out to Zach.
Shout out to Zach.
Okay.
A lot of work.
It's a lot of work, man. And he is taking it. I really thought I'd be stitching this together in webinar software. So if you like the look and feel of this TV show, Zach to thank for keeping it visually interesting and awesome. Okay, Janine, what I've heard from you is that success would look like this: a sustainable, growing business model in which clients trust me over the long term with their brands, their stories, their products, and their voices. And I think that's super important. Sometimes we talk about storytelling like it's something to be tossed up in the air and caught again. Oh, storytelling, hooray! Yeah. That's really is a tender and fragile thing that must be protected. Like stories aren't to be thrown in the air and hopefully you catch some of them. That sometimes they're deeply personal or painful or transformative, and
that's right.
It is not always cause for the trampoline jubilation. Okay, that there's diversity there, and this resonates with me so much, Janine, because I like diversity in my work. I don't want to be doing the same. If I only wrote emails for dentist office, I might as well work in an office. If I only wrote website pages for SaaS companies,
yeah.
If I only did this. Now, no shade to copywriters who love to get their teeth into that, but that's not for me. Yes. Diversity of products, of method, of delivery, of platform. So what I'm hearing from you is I don't want to be bored.
Yep.
And that's great news. The other thing I thought was really interesting was instant. You didn't describe it this way, but I wrote instantly recognizable. And I feel like this is about your own brand. So when you said people trust me with their brands,
yep.
Now you're trusting yourself with your own brand. Can I build something that's instantly recognizable? When you get an email from me, what's me? Because the voice is instantly recognizable.
Absolutely.
There's no question. It can come anonymously. Be like, Rebecca wrote that.
Exactly.
I want the same for you with whatever we end up branding this business, that people know immediately that is your asset
That's it.
without a shadow of a doubt.
That's it.
Do you know that? Do you know the TikTok song for the little TikTok sound that was about propagation? I
I don't
gotta
think.
see if you can. I'll see if I can remember the lyrics. But it was like, you take a leaf and you propagate. You take another plant, you grow another plant, a baby brother plant. So I gotta find that for you.
Find it, please.
And then you propagate.
And then you propagate. And I probably have heard it because folks use those. Those aren't mnemonics. What are those called when you?
And I think it is a memory device.
Maybe yeah.
You know what I wanted to ask you about the speaking of mnemonic devices in gardening?
Yeah.
And I think this is a super powerful analogy for business as well.
Hmm.
And for you and the journey you're going on, what is that? First you sow, then you, it's like the sow underground, and then things happen. And the year one, this, year two, this, year three, this,
Yeah, I
year
think.
three, you rock. I forget what that is.
Yeah, what first you sow? Is it then you nurture, or is it? Does it have anything to do with nurturing the soil? Because there's
It
certain.
has to do with how when you plant something, the first year you planted it, and the second year it's growing underground, and the third year is when you see those returns.
That almost sounds for me analogy the way that asparagus grows. Because you're nurturing that underground, then it grows some, but it's not
Yeah,
until really that third year because it's establishing like its roots. Oh man, I see where
exactly.
you're going.
There's a line, there's a gardening like poem or it's not a
Yeah,
poem, but like a stanza or something like that speaks to that. And I think it's analogous to business. I'll look it up and we'll
yeah,
have it for next time.
and I'll look for it as well. Thank
Okay,
you.
you better go and get your shed installed.
I
Speaking
know.
of your garden,
You know what I'm going to call it? Because it sits on the hill of my in my backyard. I think I'm going to call it Blueberry Hill because I have a blueberry on the side that I kept asking them. I don't want this to ruin the blueberry. I just planted it last year, and if you do have to dig it up, but dig it deep so I can replant it. And but they were able to save it, so it's going to be. I think that space is going to be called Blueberry Hill.
oh my God, God save the blueberries.
I know
I
exactly.
love it. If you can keep them from the birds, right?
Oh
Do
my
you
god,
do you net
netting,
them?
netting.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can't. I cannot wait to see your garden.
Yeah, and they're not massive yet. I just planted these last year, but I'm hoping, that I'm gonna reap some benefit. I have several blueberries growing and figs out in that space, and
I
we'll
love
see.
figs. I
Yeah,
used to have a fig tree in my yard. Yeah, it's
you
really neat.
did?
Yeah, it was very bountiful as well.
They
And we
grow
just
like
pull them. We would
crazy.
pull them out and just put them on the counter, and they'd be
Oh,
like.
stop.
And I think figs are very
Yes,
fertile. They
fertile.
just seem to be exemplary of fertility. Papaya looks like that to
Papaya.
me as well.
Yeah, persimmons does it for me as well.
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah.
like that. I've planted several persimmon trees, but they're small. I'm just hoping for next maybe 5 years that I'll be able to reap, but maybe in 2 3 years. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. That whole sort of seeing it grow and its fruit in
Yeah.
your own backyard, and God, there's
It's
nothing like
nothing
it.
exactly. You didn't have to get in your car and
Yeah,
spend gas and buy it in a plastic bag that it was shipped
yeah.
3,000 miles across the country and picked 7 years ago.
That's I know.
Never gets old. Just like guts, never gets old.
We never get old. We
Okay.
just get
Oh,
bold. Come on.
we just get bold.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said mold.
No, bold. No, we just get mold. Oh, honey. But no, no, we just get bold. What was the first part of it?
We don't
We
get
never,
old.
yeah,
We
we
never get
never
old. We
grow
just get
old. We
bold.
just get bold. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
That's
Mm,
good. You ended it on a good note.
yes, we did.
Okay, go install that shell, lady.
I
Go
know.
shell. Go install that shed, lady.
I know. I'll send you pictures of it when it's done.
That would be great. We'll put them up in the
Bravo.
show notes. Yeah,
Thank you.
bravo. All right, a new
This has been
brand
awesome.
emerges.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I will see you officially. Look at me talking to nobody. I will see you officially on Friday, and we're going to start positioning. Like for real this time. I keep saying we're going to position, but we really have to decide what the business was first before we
Yeah.
do position.
No,
Obviously.
please. Please. So
Monday. That's
Tuesday.
right.
Tuesday.
No, I will stop the recording.
No.
Today is Friday. I will see you Tuesday. And then I am now. Let's position Tuesday and reveal the positioning on Friday. That would be cool. We could
Hey,
even do we could even do that part live if we wanted.
I'm game for anything. Show
Okay.
me the way. No, I was gonna say
All
show me
right.
the way to go home. But anyway.
We'll keep Tuesday. We'll keep Friday. Friday, if either of us are feeling exhausted, we can use that as let go day. But let's
All right.
keep Tuesday. Let's keep Friday. Keep those two things rolling. But we can flex it if we want to. How's that sound?
That sounds like a plan, a
Okay.
doable plan.
Awesome sauce.
Fun, easy, and very popular plan that we can move forward.
Just sounds like my sex life. Okay, let's end the
I know.
recording.
I love it. Enjoy your weekend, Rebecca. This has been a wonderful week with you
Yeah, same,
once again.
same. Let me know if you don't have access to that folder I shared with you earlier that has all the assets. The promo, YouTube short, an introduction, episode 1, all of that. Logo files are in there. You're welcome to use.
Wow.
All of that stuff is in there. So please let me know if you can't access everything. I want you to have full control.
I am excited. I will let you know. I'll take a look at that today and I'll let you know
Cool.
whether or not access is granted.
Yeah, and as always, seek your blessing on everything before it gets published.
You have, yeah, you all should know that I really appreciate that. I think we all have worked in environment spaces where that's not necessarily the case. And not that things go bad as a result, but what a joy to be able to be a part of. You feel like you're a part of the journey because you do at every turn. You like, take a look at this. Want to make sure that, that this works for you. Look at the language. How does it work? And it really
I'm,
it feels great. Partnership development was the space I worked in communications when I was with the federal government. And a lot of people, they view it as a soft touch, but it's important. It requires all of this, all of what you're doing, engaging.
Otherwise, you feel like a commodity.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just using your voice and your story to do something that furthers my own gains. And what if I made a mistake, like awaken the larger culture to the renaissance of black art or whatever it is? It's like not a renaissance and there's no larger culture. But what if I had done something like that and you'd have no time to be able to correct it?
Yeah.
And then
Hear you.
that doesn't feel good either. So we don't always have time to fix everything. There's in episode 1, honey, is baked in because it's due today.
Is that enough?
But we're gonna get a little ahead of the game, and it's really important to me that I have your buy-in on things because this is your story. We're not tossing up and down in the air like a 9-month-old who loves being.
Then you laugh and then.
Yeah, this is something. I'm a steward over your story right now. And that's a vast responsibility that I don't take lightly, and I try very hard not to have a cavalier attitude about just your authentic role in that. So
You're
love you, girl.
You're unique, and I love you too.
Okay.
I really do.
Same.
Thank you.
I'll see you on Tuesday. I'll send you an invitation.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Ciao.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao.
Let me see
Okay.
that shed. Bye.
I can't wait.
That's gonna be cool.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye, honey.